We are honored to welcome Representative Chris Collins here today. Congressman Collins represents New York's 27th Congressional District. He was first elected in 2012 by the residents of Western New York and the Finger Lakes. Representative Collins served as the county executive for Erie County when Cogan 3407 accident occurred, and he still lives in Clarence. As a result, he experienced the tragedy from a very personal perspective. Representative Collins deeply understands the importance of defending the first officer training, qualification, and experience requirements that were put in place to make flying safer. ALPA applauds his tremendous leadership and dedication to protecting airline passengers in Western New York and across the nation by making certain the safety-focused rules stay in place. Representative Collins, we know your support will be more important than ever as the U.S. House debates the Federal Aviation Administration reauthorization bill. Thank you so much for joining us here. Representative Collins.
Thank you. Yeah, I am sorry. I've got to maybe cut it a little close. We were supposed to be voting at 6 o'clock, and now they say it could be at 4:30. Don't you just love D.C. traffic? So anyway, I'm very happy to be here, and I'm a GA pilot, going back almost 40 years. And when it comes now to your issues, I guess the good news, there's so many people today that come to D.C. and they get bad news, whether it's what we didn't get done on health care and what we know is going to be difficult on tax reform and what we know is going to be difficult on infrastructure. But believe it or not, we are making progress in a lot of other areas, and certainly in the things that impact you most, in the FAA reauthorization. It's nice to now know that the pilots, the airlines, pretty much everyone except, and I'm not sure why, the GA Association's not on board with privatizing the air traffic control system and bringing ourselves up to something that would look like what we see in other countries. And we've all seen, the air traffic controllers with their slips of paper. You almost can't make this stuff up. It'd be like using computers with punch cards. So I think we finally have a level of unanimity within the industry, with the pilots, the airlines, certainly the federal government saying enough's enough, we're going to privatize the air traffic control system and move forward. And I think all of the issues the GA guys are bringing up are dollars and cents. They think somehow a private operator is going to gouge them on takeoffs and landings and so forth and so on. And we've tried to assure them there's nothing further from the truth. The good news, though, in this room is, we're going to upgrade the air traffic control system, and what we have now. I know I tried to fly out of Florida a week ago, and a thunderstorm came in and backed up all the flights at least 2.5, if not 3 hours. So that's number one. That's good news for all of you. The other good news, I'd say, is I've led the fight on Norwegian Air for some time right now, and we do have in the FAA reauthorization right now House Resolution 2150. Which would again deal with these flags of convenience airlines. We know, again, from a safety standpoint, they're flying in here. They're not subject to our same rules. There's a cost issue with where they may be registered, but who knows who their pilots are, how they're being trained. And we were a little disappointed that the Obama regulation went in and was not pulled. But I do think that what we've got now going in the FAA reauthorization should be helpful to end the what we call the Norwegian Air issue. And we're going to keep fighting it as we have been fighting, as we all know, the pilot qualification hours. So as was noted, I was the county executive on February 12th, 2009. That was my daughter's 18th birthday. Great night, about 10 o'clock. As the county executive, I was in charge of all emergency services in the county. It's a largest county in upstate New York. And when Continental, I call it Continental 3407, came down, it was 1 mile from my house. My emergency radios went off instantly. I was on the scene, probably the second person there within 15 minutes. And it was kind of frustrating. I had the FBI there. I had all kinds of government regulatory folks, and they wouldn't even want to admit on the news what flight went down. Was it how small a plane? Was it a commercial flight? Where did it take off? Are there survivors? I'm on the phone with the emergency rooms. They're sending the ambulances, and I'm saying there's no survivors in this one. And we fairly early on knew where that flight originated. We knew pretty close how many folks were on it. And finally, I had enough is enough, and I said to the FBI, and I said to the NTSB and the others, I said, I don't care what you say. I'm announcing to our residents, many of whom lost their loved ones in this plane crash, exactly what flight number it was, and exactly they had, some of them in another building. But that just started what was a horrific, 72 hours plus. They couldn't get the fire out. They had burst a gas line. And the folks in our medical department, my Doc Billetier, who had to do what we could to close the book for all of these folks with the remains, was just something I'll never forget. And then it turns out it was 100% pilot error. Not even 99%, it was 100%. These pilots were working part-time jobs. The co-pilot was sick as a dog. She'd never even been in a plane with a stick shaker. They didn't know how the stick shaker worked. The pilot had failed 5 qualification runs. There was no database on it. So 49 souls on the plane, and when he pancaked the house, the gentleman in that perished. Those 50 people died needlessly, and it was purely pilot error. So myself as the county executive, and now continuing in my role in Congress, we've just stood with those families year in and year out to make sure the 1,500-hour training rule, which was passed by Congress as a direct result of Continental 3407, along with the database so people would know if a pilot has failed his check ride 5 straight times. We've come together in a bipartisan way for safety in the skies, and we've been now fighting, in some cases, the airlines, the regional airlines that want to, basically they say there's a pilot shortage, so one way to get around it is either to reduce the 1,500 hours or to let pilots get credit for training in what we would call uncertified environments. I certainly made my position known, and Senator Schumer and I disagree on almost everything, except for this. So Senator Schumer in the Senate, and certainly myself, I'm the unique individual that was the first person in Congress to endorse Donald Trump back in February of 16, and as a result, I have a relationship with the president himself and everyone in that administration, because I was part of those 20 or 25 folks that got him elected, and have continued to stand with him. So I certainly made it clear to our folks on T&I that there was no way we could water down the 1,500-hour rule, and they certainly weren't going to get my support on the FAA. And there were some amendments that they were, quote, threatening to push through. We got those pulled, and at the end, we got exactly what we needed out of the House. And now we may have to fight a battle in the Senate, and that might be Senator Schumer's job to make sure, and I think he will, that the 1,500 hours stays in place. If the airlines have to pay more to get qualified pilots, that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. And I think if the pay is there, you're going to get more individuals signing up and going to the qualified schools. We do have certainly issue with military pilots or the 750 hours. So we've recognized the skill set coming out of our military. So from where I stand today, we've got what we needed on the qualification hours in the FAA reauthorization. We're going to be upgrading our air traffic control system and getting out of the 19th century and going into the 21st century. We're going to keep fighting Norwegian Air and the flags of convenience. And the key thing is you coming down and meeting with your members is very important. To bring a face to some of these issues. Certainly your trade association is on top of it. We like to say, help us help you on these matters, and they've been very good with the data and so forth. So other than the fact it was a bad week for health care, and we're going to have some turmoil on tax reform, your issues are moving quite well, and we're all looking forward to getting the FAA reauthorization done in a very bipartisan way, and I think it will be, and we'll be moving in the 21st century. Well, good. Thank you all very much, and enjoy the rest of your day.